right, let's get started today. So today we're going to talk about percent of a number. Last time we went ahead and talked about converting fractions to decimals to percents, and then we also took a look at estimating percents. Today we're actually going to find the exact answer. So there are two ways to look at it. We're going to spend today looking at how to do it with percent proportion. And then on lesson 4, we're going to look at percent equation and be able to move to both of these. So let's start with percent proportion. Well, thinking about what percent is the key. So we know that that's any number over 100. So your percent would be a number, so x over 100. Well, really, if we break that down one step further, it's really the part over the whole, the part that you got correct or incorrect, depending on how you write the percent, over 100. Well, if you think that it's the same as a part over a whole, we're looking at that same idea of part over whole equals our answer. So you can see this is our percent proportion. Part over whole equals percent over 100. And that's really what we're looking at today. Okay? So we're going to take a look at, there are 3 different ways I could ask this question. I could ask you to find the percent then I'd be missing my percent key. I could ask you to find the part of the number, like you see what number is 80% of 5, or I could ask you to find the whole of a number. Today we're going to focus right here and right here, mainly on this one actually. We'll look at this one on lesson 4. So this one's going to be lesson 4, and we'll look at these on lesson 4 really. And we could talk about percent equation. But we're going to focus on just getting used to finding the part today. Okay? So let's take a look at how we might do a problem like that. So we're going to use the pie graph or the circle graph that's down here below. And the first thing we need to do is find our whole. Okay, so if we read, suppose there are 300 students at the middle school. So that's, if we keep our idea of part over whole equals percent over 100, my whole is going to be 300. And then I know there's always 100 here, because percent's always over 100. Then I look, how many students like cheese as a snack? Well, cheese is 15%. So 15 over 100, and we don't know how many students that is. So we're going to use our proportional knowledge from last unit, cross multiply to get our answer. That 100x equals 4,500. And then when we divide by 100, it's the same as crossing out our zeros, and we know that x is equal to 45 kids, 45 students. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try this next problem, trying to figure out how many students prefer veggies. All right, so let's take a look at this one. So it's the similar setup as the last one. I'm just going to change a little bit. X over 100, sorry, not over 100, over 300 is equal to 17% like veggies over 100. So again, we're going to cross multiply, get 5,100 equals 100x. Divide by 100, and you get 51 students would prefer vegetables as a snack. Okay? So let's take a look at another style of problem or another way. So now this time it's larger than what we're going to start with. So this is 145% of 320. It's not going to change how we find our answer. It's not going to change how we find our work. It's still going to be that same part over whole of percent over 100, even though our percent is greater than 100. So again, it's find 45% of 32. So again, we're trying to find our part. 320 is our whole, equals 145 over 100. There are lots of ways you could do this. You could cross multiply. You're going to have to cross multiply, but you could also simplify right here if you wanted to and make it a little bit smaller of a number. I actually don't prefer to simplify. I prefer to keep my numbers because it makes the second half of the equation go really easily, 100x. And then I do 145 times 320. Start with my 0, 0 carry my 1, 9. And then we're going to do our math. 5, carry the 1, that's 3, carry the 1. So when I multiply that, that gives me that 46. So 0, 0, 4, 6, 4, 46,400. And then I move my decimal point 2 to the right when I divide by 100. X is going to equal 464. Okay, pause the video and figure out your next problem. All right, so our setup is x over 140 equals 125 over 100. Then we're going to cross multiply 100x. And that gives me 17,500. Divide by 100. X is going to equal 175. Now, another way you could do this, again, you could reduce this right here down to 5/4. X over 140 is the same as 5 over 4. Now your numbers are smaller. You get 4x equals 700. When you divide 700 by 4, you get 175. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to look at this. All right, let's take a look at this last one. I'm going to show you a third way. Again, I want you to see all these different ways. You can use whichever method you want. You can stay with the standard method. You could reduce the fraction, or you can think a little more outside the box. Okay, so our same setup would be x over 65 equals 220 over 100. Well, one thing we can kind of think about here for a second is if 200% is really just 2 times 65. So I could say, okay, well, I could figure out 200% of 65, and that's 130. So now, instead of thinking 220, I can make my numbers a little smaller and go 20%, and I'm going to add whatever 20% is. Sorry, not 22%, 20% to that. So I could do my math this way and maybe make it a little simpler, maybe a little smaller math to do my way through it. Or I could even break it down one step further and go 1/5. So 5x equals 65, divided by 5x is 13. And I get the answer of 143 is 220% of that. So x would equal 143. You can do it so many different ways, okay? Set it out however you want and give this next one a try. Pause the video. All right, so you'd set up as x over 60 equals 275 over 100. And you could go 60 times 275 and get 100x is equal to 16,500, and x is equal to 165. You could take a look at it again and go, okay, x over 60, and this time I'm going to simplify it down to 11 over 4, and then multiply 4x equals 60 times 11, that's 660, and then divide 660 by 4. You still get that same 165. Or you could break it out even further and go, okay, x over 60, I know 200% of 60 is 120, so 200% equals 120 equals 75 over 100. And then from here I could simplify that to 3/4. I could leave it as 75 over 100. I would probably go down to 3/4 to make my math easier. 4x equals 180. And then you'll get real quick 180 divided by 4. You get 45. So x equals 45. And when you add 45 to 120, you get 165. All three ways I've shown you how to get the exact same answer. You can figure out whichever one works best for you. Now, what if the number is less than 1%? So we have a very small number, okay? So it's not going to be done anything different, except we're going to have a complex fraction. X over 58 equals 0.25 of 100. And you're still going to cross multiply. And when you get x, you get 100x equals 14.5. Then you're going to divide by 100 and get x is equal to 0.145 or 145 thousandths. All right, pause the video and give this one a try. All right, so that same x, this time over 55, is equal to 0.45 over 100. That first step is the same as you cross multiply every time. So now we're going to do 0.45 times 55, and you get 24 and 75 hundredths. And then we divide everything by 100. X is going to equal 0.24 0.75, so 2,475 10,000ths. And that seems to fit just about right, just less than half of 1%. Now we could do the same thing when it comes down to working with word problems. In a recent state Special Olympics team, Franklin County sent a team of 70 players. 20% of the team competed in soccer. How many competed in our soccer? So we have our full size of that team is 70. X equals 20 over 100. This time I'm going to simplify it to 1/5 to make our math really, really fast. 5x equals 70. And when I divide 70 by 5, I get x is equal to 14. So 14 players played soccer, or 14 people on the team. Go ahead and give this one a shot. Pause the video and see what you come up with. All right, so we have x over 75. They sold 75 sandwiches. What part was grilled cheese? What we're trying to figure out. It was 12% of the total amount they sold. So I'm going to do mine the long way. 100x equals 75 times 12 gives me 900. Divide everything by 100. X is going to equal 9 sandwiches, or 9 grilled cheese sandwiches. More specifically, okay? Now you've really had a chance to take a look at it. We don't have time to practice today, but you're all set to go ahead and practice your percent proportions.